Star quality. I got it. I got this. You got it. You got it. My chart says so. Look at me go. Sun, moon, rising. It's all about time. It's all about time. Earthlings. What's it all mean? What's it all mean? Star quality.
What's it all mean? What's it all mean? Mean.
Star quality. No, dude, really, what does it all mean? Star quality. I got it. You got it. We got it. Star quality. Star quality. Welcome back to Star Quality, everybody. I'm your host, Stevie Goldstein, astrologer, and I am so blessed to be joined by the leading human design expert, guide, educator. You guys have been asking for a human design episode, so this is the Chef's Kiss 101 Holy Grail. So you're in for a treat. She is the creator of the Human Design Blueprint, a personalized guidebook found at humandesignblueprint.com. We'll get into it. And the author of the brand new book. If you're watching on video, I'm holding it up right now. How do you choose a human design guide to what's best for you at work, in love, and in life? It's Erin Claire Jones. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, what's funny about us coming together, it's very projector style, but it was all through invitation. So my mentor and friend, Ophi from Astro Twins, just had you on her podcast and then knew I loved human design. And then also we're both Taurus projectors and was like, oh my gosh, you should have Erin Claire Jones. And of course, I've had been familiar with your work before too. So I was like, yes, would love to. So just feels quite projectory per usual in my life. I connect strongly to projector energy. And for anyone who's like, what are you talking about? We will get into all of the types and things. But yeah, I'm just so, I love the invitation.
I know the invitation is amazing. And when it really is clear that like we're invited in and recognized, it just feels like there's so much magic on the other side of that.
It's so true. It's like once I've learned my human design type, which is a projector, and knowing that, is that the strategy, waiting for the invitation?
That's right.
Okay, great. Knowing that strategy, it's like, even though I have a lot of cardinal placements in my astrology chart, it just I can pretty much trace back everything that's gotten me to now from every single invitation. Like even living in Los Angeles, like I was staying in an Airbnb and the guy, like just to visit, and the guy was like, I'm actually moving. Do you want to move into this apartment? And I was like, oh, I never thought of living here, but now I will live here. And then met my husband, and
Wow.
then I met a girl at a party we started an astrology podcast. What's your sign? My previous podcast. And it's just like, oh, like it just, once you know your type and those strategies, like it's so much clearer. And then I also know when I start to force my searches, I'm like, what am I doing?
Totally.
Did invitation as a fellow projector? I'm just curious, like, was that like evident in your like youth as well? Or like, how did that kind of, I always think back of like, I wish my mom knew I was a projector when I was a kid. Cause I feel like I've been so much less frustrating with a Virgo generator, like in my ear.
Totally. I think that I have a lot of moments where I just remember feeling like very seen, and it wasn't at all by everybody, but it would just be like kind of one relationship or one teacher or one connection where it was like, oh, they just like see me really clearly. And like, it felt like there was so much unlocked in those connections. And then I guess when I look back at my kind of professional life, I mean, especially since discovering human design, but also how I discovered human design, it's like, it's all been through invitations. So I feel like the more aware I've become of the fact that invitations are meant to spark the next opportunity for me, the more able I am to kind of lean into them when they come. I think so often these things are already happening, but like when we know this about ourselves, we can actually just like be proactive about it and really like flow with it instead of against it. So yes, I feel like that recognition and invitation has always been there. And I think it's really come to another level now that I'm aware of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. Yeah. I was reading your book, and it's we'll get more into the book and everything too, but such a great 101 for anyone who's been like, where do I start in human design, with really great like breakdowns. And I was reading your introduction of just like being at a party and sort of getting unbrushed in by your mentor, and also just recognizing that, like, of course you can work against your type, and probably most of us are doing that. It's similar in
Totally.
astrology. I feel like often well, it can be one of two ways. Like, I feel like, and maybe this speaks to human design as well, where it's like sometimes we're truly just living our chart and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You're tapped in. Or when the things are feeling really crunchy and against the grain, it's like, yeah, because it's the opposite of your energy flows typically.
Totally. And I think a lot of us just, spend a lot of energy trying to be a thing that we're not, mostly because we, are resisting what we are. Or we observe that others are doing things differently and think we should maybe be like them. And so I
Hmm.
think there's something often so relieving to be like, oh, yeah, that is how I'm meant to operate. I can just lean into that and not, away from it. But yes, the way it started for me was literally meeting a stranger who asked to read my human design chart and then invited me to study with him. So my whole journey into
Amazing.
human design began with a pretty wild invitation.
Should we let's go over maybe a little tidbit of what is human design
Hmm.
and a quick ish over, it doesn't have to be quick, but a little breakdown of the five types, and
Great.
also how people can find this out for their own charts.
Perfect. So, if you are new to human design, it is based on your time, date, and place of birth, like astrology. And it reveals all this very specific practical information around how you move best through the world, how you make decisions, how you can create opportunities, how you can structure your day to day in an optimal way, how you might communicate best. And so, it really kind of lets us know like our own operating manual, our own mechanics. So like we've been talking about, we can kind of flow
Hmm.
with it and not against it. I think something I love so much about human design is that it feels like equal parts mystical and practical. It is so mystical. It comes from the stars, but it's also incredibly practical in the information it actually offers.
Hmm.
If you have not yet looked up your human design, you can at humandesignblueprint.com, and it's going to be a wild looking chart similar to the natal chart. I mean, not similar, but similar in that it's wild looking.
Yes, it might look very, if you've never seen something like that before, that's usually like my first question. If I get on with people, I'm like, is this just a bunch of like symbols and lines and like a wild thing you've never seen before? And if it's like yes, it's like that's all good. I like to remind people I failed geometry twice, but somehow figured out how to be an astrologer. So to not let, like, I think that overwhelm you either. I loved your
Totally.
breakdown on your website too, because I think a lot of it's kind of like this thing now where people like poo poo on like the graph breakdown on astrology charts, or like, reading your chart written out. But if that's how you have to start, I think that's like, who cares? Like, I'm like, who cares? Like, if however you can enter, like, I'm not,
Yeah.
there's no snobbery here in however you need to learn or get your learning devices. And so I really appreciate the written breakdowns on your website, and then getting to see the visual chart that ties to which placement. Is that fair to call them placement?
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of like which, aspect of the chart. But I think, I don't know what your experience has been with people seeking you out for astrology, but my experience and why I wrote this book is that most people are coming to me not because they want to learn every aspect of the chart. I have many
Right.
ways to learn that, but they want to know how like they can actually use it in their life. Like what
Mm-hmm.
can they learn about themselves that can actually have an impact? So often overwhelming people with the chart at the outset doesn't, support them in that journey
Yeah.
unless they're like ready to learn the mechanics. So
Mm-hmm.
there are many, many things that can be discovered in the chart, similar to a natal chart. But in human design, there are five different types. That's kind of the highest level distinction. And then it kind of breaks down a lot more specifically from there. The
Mm-hmm.
types are manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. So I would look up your chart, look at the chart if you like, but just kind of look at what's listed for you under your type.
I probably know the most about projectors because since I'm still new to human design, but like obsessed, and I think that's the fun thing. And what I hear with my fellow astros who maybe aren't felt like also human designers is that it's like, why is this so weirdly accurate? It is always like the thing that is that takeaway. And it's cool to see that blend of all the modalities of like mysticism, including astrology. So just that was my thing. But I would love to, yeah, just give like maybe a one liner on each type and like
Cool.
what their vibe is, a vibe check
Yeah.
on the five.
So generators are people that are quite boundless in their energy when they feel genuine excitement by what they're doing. Like it's just like their
Mm-hmm.
excitement is really infectious. It kind of lifts up everyone around them. So really treating their own satisfaction as important is so important, and seeing that
Mm-hmm.
not as a selfish choice, but the most generous thing they can do. Then we've got manifesting generators who are quite multi-passionate. These are
Mm,
clients that are like, I'm also launching this and I'm doing this, and they kind of pivot often. And so they've often been made to feel scattered or like they're doing too much when um, they need that variety, they need that freshness, and they tend to be very fast.
mm-hmm,
Projectors like you and me tend to be very natural leaders, guides, teachers, coaches, counselors, really good at asking the right questions, really wise about people. They tend to kind of be in positions where they are like stewarding others. And they tend
mm-hmm.
to love systems like astrology and human design, anything that kind of like deepens their innate wisdom already around people. How does that land for you?
Oh, I mean, I've always joked, and I always equated this maybe with Taurusness for me, and maybe that also connects since you're a fellow Taurus sun. Is I've always joked like let a Taurus run your life. Like I know like that need to like produce like as a producer because I used to work in television too. So I've literally worked as a producer. It's like taking in people and their information and then was doing that while I was working in astrology. And also then that's how I got into astrology because people were listening to my podcast and going, I want readings. I want like more of your voice around astrology. And I was like, oh, then I went to astrology school, started doing readings, then branched off into my newsletter and podcast. So again, all the invitations that I can get, which we'll get into the strategies too a bit,
Hmm.
or any of the other tidbits. So it's super resonates. I think, even knowing that projectors are so much about like people and organizing. Like I always joked, I'm like, oh, I'd love to just be the town seer. Like you just put me, in a
Totally.
beautiful hut and people come and ask for advice. And then, then I'm left for half the day to do whatever and then
Yeah.
go away.
Yeah, and that's, a really important part of being a projector is that, our energy is not meant to be this kind of constant output. It's really meant to be these
Hmm.
very natural ebbs and flows. So really kind of building space and rest and pause into our days and really disentangling our worth from like how hard we work and how much we do.
Yeah. I had three, I think in high school, I had like three open periods, like in like, and I'm like, that should have been maybe a sign. Well, I guess they didn't know about human design probably in the suburbs of Chicago, but being like, why did she need so much like sleep?
Because you do, yeah.
So funny.
Then we've
Also felt
got,
like Taurus
okay,
things, and then
totally.
the elusive reflectors. I've never met a reflector, which is
Really? I
wild
bet
to
you
me.
have, but you don't know.
Right. And I've never met an out
An
or
outed reflector.
aware.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then we've got manifestors too. So,
Oh, yes.
reflectors are the rarest type, so they're just 1% of the population. And these people, think of them as like our collective mirrors. They're so
Hmm.
attuned to their physical space and kind of always amplifying the energy that they're around. So, being in spaces that feel good is so important to kind of moving them ahead on the right path. They're also very fluid people. They might find kind of different seasons of life, different environments, different friends pull out different parts of them. And they're just
Hmm.
incredibly wise and objective in their perspective and how they see. The final type is a manifestor. These people are very innovative, disruptive by nature, really good at kind of starting new ideas, bringing new ideas to life. Their gift is not always kind of like sustaining all the ideas they've created, but more kind of like kickstarting things and like bringing them to life. They
Hmm.
also tend to value freedom. These are people that like freedom to kind of do what they want, when they want, how they want, and aren't really great at kind of being guided or told what to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Slay, I'm surrounded by generators, it seems like. I mean, I guess it's the most populous signs
Yeah.
types.
Generators are
Sorry
manifest.
if I blend any astrology language. It's just that's my native tongue, so
Yeah.
I might overlap.
Generators and manifesting generators make up about 70% of the population. Again, collectively, kind of the people that
Mm,
really are like here to like build and create and make things happen. Projectors about 20%, manifestors about 8 to 9, and reflectors about 1.
okay. Oh my gosh. Love it. How, I mean, as a human design expert, guide, teacher, how like, with a projector needing a lot of rest or like how, yeah, like how, I'm just curious, you as a business person, like how does that show up? Or like did you have to change things once you discovered your type and started diving deeper into human design and maybe that's a good because so the book covers like everything as it says in work and love and life. So maybe we
Yeah,
can talk a little about work because I feel like now we're in like spring. It's like feeling like, oh, fuck, it's the second half of the year. We got like, there's still lots to do. And for maybe how each type for the rest of the year might like, best use their energy or any like little, even if it's a keyword that might, resonate for them.
totally. Okay, so for work, I think that's something I really learned as a projector is like I think that prior to discovering human design, I really, found most of my worth and my ability to just like go, go, go. And I was pretty relentless. I felt like that was like
Mm,
the only path to success. So I think it was a big lesson that like the more rested I am, the more effective I am, the more inspired I am, the more creative I am. So really kind
mhm,
of building rest into my days, not doing things back to back, especially sessions. I've also always built a business with a partner. So kind of really been able
mm,
to be in the role of like sharing human design, but not trying to do everything myself. That's made a big difference. But I
mhm,
guess when I think of work and types as a, through the rest of the year, like I think as a projector, my reminder would be, and it's hard, I struggle with this, is like, how can you carve out moments in your days where you kind of release the need to be productive at all?
mm,
And that can be 5 minutes. It might be an hour, but it might be like, I have two young kids. I'm launching a book. Like life is crazy. My moments for
yeah.
rest are like they're not long, but I think, I will take them where I can give them
Micro rest.
micro moments, and I would just say a big learning for me as a projector is that I think I used to feel that even rest had to be productive. It was like, what
Mm,
podcast can I listen to? Like, what course can I take? What can I clean? And it's just like, how can I really allow myself to just be and do a thing that feels so nourishing, whether it's taking a
mhm.
bath or reading fiction or whatever it is.
Some
I think for
stillness.
some stillness, how do you feel like you are at that?
I was like, that sounds challenging. That sounds like yeah, I think there is, I don't know, maybe it's because projectors do need so much rest that there is this idea that like, well, I'm resting and I still have so much to do. So I need to integrate this time and time is of the essence. And so even though like I'll know like what am I going to do in this like 5 minute lay down? Like, oh, like I'm going to make a social media post while I'm laying on this like nap lay or whatever. And it's, yeah, like I think that's a good permission I needed to hear to like just let the rest be rest and it
I
doesn't
know.
have to be anything besides that. Not that
I know.
hard for
It's
Taurus either, but like again, we can work against the
all
things
the
that feel
time.
so natural to us.
Totally. And I just think it's a good thing to keep an eye on as a projector because it is so tempting. Like I
Mm-hmm.
find that for generators and manifesting generators, they often like know when to stop. Like their energy has
Mm,
been expended and they're like,
yeah,
I am complete. And like with projectors, we like just like don't quite have an off switch. And so we're just like, oh, we'll just keep
interesting.
going and going and going. And
Mm-hmm.
so like I think us giving ourselves that permission to be like, and it's okay to stop.
Whoa, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense that the generators. I'm married to one, and it's like I can just see he's like, and my gas, tank's out of gas.
Done.
Done
Totally.
for the day. Work is it's like a farmer. Like the light, the
Yeah.
sun is down. Now I sleep and I'm like, what? Well, and night is usually when I get like the most, ideas flowing in and starting to like do all this stuff. It's interesting looking at your chart too, just thinking about like energy. Have you, I mean, and sorry if you're like, yeah, girl, but have you like looked much at your astrology chart?
I've had readings before, but I am like a total newbie to astrology. So no, don't think I like
Okay,
know
cool.
much. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Just had to, I always like to check like where people
Yeah.
enter. Do you mind if I screen share?
Oh my God, no.
Okay, cool. It's just funny looking when we're talking about like energy and go because we would look at Mars. And so Mars is the planet of action. And you have it in Pisces, which is known for being really rooted in rest and creativity. Like as soon as you were talking, I was looking at your chart and I was like, she's onto something. she's onto something here. But then there's also this Aries Venus that brings that, you know, different energy. That's what's so funny with astrology too. Is like we contain multitudes, right? Like, yes,
Hmm.
part of us is really like this dreamy, slower, Pisces. That's just like, what's the rush? What does anything even mean? Very like esoteric and zoomed out, where Aries is very like competitive and high achieving and all these things. And then you also mentioned working in partnerships. You have your Taurus sun in the seventh house of partnerships. So like really rooted
Mm.
in connecting, working business. This can also be in these business contracts, etc. And then just while I'm on the tour of this side of your chart, you also have Mercury natally retrograde. So you're born during a retrograde, which
Hmm.
also for anyone who's also has been born during a Mercury retrograde, you're already exist like legend has it that people born during Mercury retrogrades don't feel them as much because they're like born into the chaos. So like they can where everyone is telling you to rest during Mercury retrogrades, that might be like the secret time, whether you're a projector or not. Like if you're born during Mercury retrogrades, to actually continue operating versus being like
Wow.
have versus everyone telling you like you better stop. Which also Mercury retrogrades are like 3 to 4 times a year, and like we just simply can't. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. We can move. We can do life during Mercury retrogrades, but the Mercury retrograde natal people just might not be as like, feeling that as much. Do you I'm not sure how, like, when Mercury retrogrades happen, are you like, why is everyone spinning out, or do you feel them as heavily?
It's interesting. I feel like I often like realize like the retrograde is happening like at the end of it. Do
That's
you know what I mean? And then
yes,
I'm just like, oh shoot, like I didn't really like, and then I kind of like reflect back. So that actually does make sense.
that's
Like
so funny.
I don't feel like I tend to experience it in like a really intense way. Like it is always useful for me to know, but I do think I always experience it like as we've already moved through it. I'm like, huh, instead of
Hmm.
kind of like at the beginning.
Yeah, well, it's like I've had a lot of Mercury retrograde natal people to be like, oh, like this and that. And I'm like, you know, in some ways, like there was a time where we weren't aware of our charts or like that things are going to slow us down. So also if that information makes you feel like shit, like you
Right.
can just like release that as well. But it also doesn't mean that everyone else isn't spinning out. I think it's better for maybe more personal projects or things you have to trudge along on. Like they can still delay or skew like contracts or things that you're working with other people. But otherwise, like I always like let my Mercury retrograde people know, like, oh, like you have like the secret hall pass that you can like continue on during these Mercury retrogrades. So don't let the like internet noise tell you to like
Yeah,
boot down, if you need to
totally.
boot down, then boot down. But like if
Yeah,
you feel like you can keep going, then by all means, like you might be moving a little smoother than everyone else at that time.
totally.
So
So
fun
interesting. I love that insight.
are the types, because I know astrology is a blend of, because human design is astrology, the I Ching. I have this written down. I know it's a few things.
Yeah.
I know it's a few
Kabbalah, the
things.
chakra system. Yeah.
Yes. Where does the astrology come in? Do the types, are they associated with certain signs or like,
They're not.
oh,
So basically, kind of just like it all feeds in and kind of creates, it's interesting because like all these different systems like play a role, but the way they kind of come out in human design looks different,
mm-hmm.
And so like there are places where you can zoom out, you can see that like different gates are like, in different planets, and therefore there can be like additional nuance there, but there aren't any like linear correlations in terms of like manifestors or more often have like, or a Taurus or
Right.
whatever, something like that. So I do find the systems are so complementary. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like they tend to like offer information that just like gives a fuller picture. But yeah, there's
They don't
no
equate like,
patterns
oh,
that I
these
can see.
are, because like, in astrology we have cardinal signs, those are like the doers and goers where you might think of that like a generator type
Yeah,
energy. So, but it's not like as one to
black
one
and white.
with
No,
that.
it's
Okay.
not. I know, but
And
I've wondered. Yeah.
all good. Well, I know and forgive me, it's like, because in human design, it's like your soul is like formed like 3 months or something prior. Am I saying the right language?
So basically, in our design, there are going to be elements that you are conscious of and elements that you are unconscious of, which I actually love in the
Mm,
chart because it basically just means that like it's helpful to know like, oh, this is something I can like easily access, whereas this is a part of me that like I might not access quite as easily, but others might see in me. And so
mm.
basically the parts that are conscious are the parts that are kind of like coming out like the minute that we're born, and the parts that are like unconscious and you could say kind of like the soul, what others see in us, those are things that come 3 months before our birth.
Oh, cool.
So it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, I just saw mine was in Aquarius season, and I just thought it was interesting as a Taurus that it's the season it's 90-ish days before, which is 90-degree angles away in astrology, which then is the sign that like squares you, which is then said to be the sign that kind of puts pressure on you to like move and do and like grow. So I was like, it was interesting to see that like, I don't know if it's always like a clean 90 days or what have you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Just for my astro nerds tying in some like random
Oh my God, I
observations
love
I've
it.
seen. And I think Ophi mentioned, and I don't, and correct me, but there was something about like some switch that's happening in 2027, like human design wise. Was it called like the Great Mutation or something like that?
Yeah, there's like, I love it. Ophi's gone so down the rabbit hole.
Oh,
I think that,
she's like a full on scholar now with you. After talking to you, she's like giving me some like lessons. I'm like so motivated to like really get human designing this summer. It's like on my like
oh
school
my God,
homework
I
list.
love
So
it.
I will be using a lot of your resources to do that. But
Oh
yeah, I
my
would
God, I
love
love
to hear
it.
about this, like, because astrology is so date centric and
Yeah,
about time.
yeah.
So anytime there's something hopefully to look forward to, that's always great to flag. But yeah, what's happening in 2027 that the people need to know about?
I mean, it's so, I wonder how you relate to this with astrology. Like, I feel like the founder of human design, Ra Uru, who's no longer alive, I think he made a lot of predictions, and I think they're really interesting. And also, like, I feel
Mm,
like the reality is also we don't really know how it's all going to happen. I mean, we
right.
never do. So, like, I also kind of wonder, yeah, I feel like I kind of navigate that on my own in terms of knowing how to share about it. I would say that the change that we're going through is we're basically kind of moving out of a time that was a little bit more focused on the collective and more focused kind of on institutions and like kind
Mm,
of building up these things that we could like it was the cross of planning as in human design language where we could kind of really all be supported together. And
hmm.
the idea is that we're in this phase of kind of things breaking down and becoming a little bit more individual centric
Makes
in terms of
sense.
it does not, it's not like not on point, but
Yeah.
it's more like people that might be working for themselves, more entrepreneurs, more solo entrepreneurs, and more. And
Hmm.
also, I think it's a reminder that like I mean, we're living in a world where like a lot's changing very fast.
Yeah.
And so like I think human design kind of is a reminder for me, like this is a way to kind of anchor into ourselves in moments of uncertainty. Like so much
Hmm.
of the magic of human design is helping us know how to kind of make decisions and navigate through the world in a way that feels authentic and true to us. And so I guess it feels more important than ever that we
Yeah.
are doing that. But that's kind of the transition from a kind of a more collective focus, these institutions, towards a more kind of individual focus, the institutions breaking down. And then he says
Damn.
all kinds of weird stuff about like kids, and the kids are going to be really different. And I
Oh,
don't mean
okay.
weird stuff, but like stuff like it's again, we don't
So this is
quite
kind of his like
know.
Nostradamus-y, like looking ahead. He's like
Yeah,
scheduled out some like dates of importance, and like one of these is coming up in 2027 that's kind of
exactly.
presenting this, which is,
Yeah,
look, we're putting our woo hats on. We do that
we
often over
are.
here. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, that doesn't not sound like, what do you mean? It's so different from what's happening right now.
No, it feels aligned,
And
It feels
especially the
like
kids being different. I don't know, like, I don't know fully what he means by that, but like, I mean, what's like the meme, like our parents were full of lead and now we're full of microplastics. Like, it's like we're all affected by
totally.
environments, and also that the systems are fully changing in so many ways. But that also goes astrologically. We're in, I remember when I was getting ready to look at 2025's astrology last fall, and I was like looking at my laptop and I just like slowly closed it. I looked at my husband. I was like, I've never seen a year like this
Oh,
so
really?
far. Not to scare anyone. Like, we are not here to like, live like, oh, what's happening? Life happens with us, not like to us. But it's just so much is changing all at once. And I think it's pretty change or be changed time. So I think to where people can come in with their own agency to choose their path or go in a new direction versus just being like, oh, well, my industry doesn't exist anymore. Oh, well, my like, kids can't read. Like, what do we do to educate people and also teach people empathy and also teach them to like respect the planet? Because it's
Hmm.
not an innate thing. It's turning out that it's still a progress of humanity that we all actually have to like check in on each other, but not in an authoritarian way, which is seeming to also be the way that is embraced, but in a way that is educational and respectful too. Just since we've had Neptune changing signs for the first time since 2012, Pluto changed signs last year for the first time since 2008, and then Uranus is changing signs for the first time since 2018. So it's like all
Hmm.
this outer shift, which outer just represents generational time periods that we can look back on. So yeah, I mean, it looks like, well, at least astrology and human design are doing a high five in their agreement on that things are in change.
Changing.
And
Yeah.
and I guess, is there tidbits or and I mean, I can weigh in astrologically too, like what's like recommended then to or like, did he give any, or do you personally feel like what would be helpful then while we go through this time of a new future?
I do think that
No
like,
pressure, but
oh my
yeah.
God, I know. I know. What a
How do
question.
we
I
save
know.
humanity.com?
Um,
Yeah.
I guess like what he did suggest, which feels very helpful for me, is around like again, I don't love getting too in my head around like, he's talking about like people operating more in groups in some way. It's just like there's a lot of stuff where it feels like we can like try to manufacture and be like, what are all the things that we can do? But I think his
Yeah.
biggest recommendation is like human design, and I think astrology will be needed more than ever because like it is the tool to kind of anchor into like when there are things crumbling and there are things changing and things feel uncertain in many ways and things are obviously changing very fast right now. It's like, what is something that I can really trust? You know? And so
Mm,
like how as a generator can you really kind of allow your gut feeling and your natural response to guide you? Like as a projector, how can you like continue to disentangle your worth from how much you do and see who like genuinely sees you
ooh.
and values you and invites you in to share it, you know? As a manifestor, like how can you really be brave about bringing new ideas and new ways of doing things into the world because they're probably needed more than ever? And like
Mm-hmm.
as a reflector, how can you really trust the value of your perspective and really kind of observe what's happening and kind of offer the insights that you can offer that no one else can offer? Like
Mm-hmm.
reflectors are so good at that. So in some ways, I feel like it's a reminder that like there's so many gifts in every single type that it's kind of the most powerful time to like lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Okay.
would just say like it's an anchor in these moments, you know? Like I just think
Mm-hmm.
that like I find myself spinning out a little bit like even I had sat with somebody recently, they're like, "Oh, I need to like have all my kids before 2027." And I'm just like I like don't know how like I just like I want to make sure that like I'm sharing human design in a way that feels like it empowers people and
Right.
it doesn't, you know, like you looking at 2025 and be like, this is a wild year. It's like, how can we be prepared, but also like not try to overly control the outcomes of things or get too
And there's
lost
that.
in the fear of it that we like
Mm-hmm.
lose connection to ourselves? Because I think if we're connected to ourselves, then we'll know how to navigate the things that come.
Mm-hmm. I think you hit on like the key word I try to dismantle a lot in astrology and just even just life is just what you said is like outcome, right? Well, if I do this, and it's helpful to have those tidbits and advice, but also knowing that we're just gonna have to, the more you know yourself, the more
Yeah.
that you're gonna know. And knowing is not knowing sometimes. Knowing is like not knowing, but knowing enough that like I feel like, oh, you know, it's just like that download you get where like, I think it's time to move out of this city. Like, oh my God, I think it's time to like end this relationship or like or get married or like elevate the relationship, whatever it is. So I think it sounds like, what is it called in human design? It's like your not self, like when when
Yeah.
you get that download of, for projectors it's bitterness, which I relate. Once I realize, anytime I'm like a bitter Betty, I remember when I was moving from Chicago, like that last year I was there, I was like, I hate the humidity and these fucking like food. And like I was just getting like I grew up there, like I just lived there too long. And finally someone's like, "You're so bitter, just leave." And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. Like I gotta go. Like this city's not the problem. Me being here right now, it's done. I've done what I can do and it's time to go to the next thing. So I think also when you look at
Mm,
your charts, everyone, I think maybe the not self, the things where you get that sign that things aren't in alignment, is maybe the secret reminder in this time that feels really
that's right.
like a lot of change and a lot of new things happening. Again, it's not in a scary way, but I'm also like in a firm reminder, like we're not going back to 2019. Things are very different now, and we are in a new future. And it doesn't have to just be like get me back to the past. We can go into a very new, cool future. I think I'm stoked for it. But I'm an 11th houser, so I'm like I look forward to newness
Yeah.
and future things. Do you connect to Taurus energy growing up?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, my dad is a Taurus as well. I think that yes. I mean like one, I'm like the coziest person ever, you
I
know,
love
and
the nook you're in right now.
I
Like, I
know.
see like a cashmere, the
Yeah.
sweater. She's in her cozy nook.
I'm in my cozy nook, you know. I think that like but I think another thing I really identify with, I'm actually curious your thoughts on this. And then
Mhm.
and then I'd love to actually share the not selves for each type because I think that would be useful
Yes.
for people to hear. But like I feel like I am very stubborn, you know, and like it's in my human design too. And like
Hmm.
I probably hear it most from my husband, but like I
Hmm.
do, and I see it in my father as well. But like that is a piece that I
What's your
think
husband's sign?
he's a Capricorn.
Okay, and you're a Capricorn moon, so like,
And our daughter and our toddler is a Sagittarius, and our 7-month-old is a Libra.
oh my God, cute. Well, they're bringing some, not to say you're not fun, but they're bringing a lot of levity, to the earthy household. The
Earthy.
fire and air is like, what do you mean? Like, let's just do things.
Totally. But so yes, I do identify with a Taurus. It's been helpful, and I think also knowing my husband and I are both, both with the
Hmm.
Taurus and Capricorn, I think we can be a little bit like intense and just making things happen and going. And I feel like that's
Hmm.
a good reminder for us both to just pause and
Yeah.
stop. Because
Yeah.
the thing is, I feel like I'm really good at either like going really hard when I'm like, oh my God, there's like all the stuff to do, but I'm also like so good at not doing anything. Like when I give myself that permission, like I like have no problem, It's like,
You're
so I
like
think that
clocking in for the nothing duties.
I'm so good at it, So for me, it's about allowing it more.
Yeah. Let's pull up your chart again just for fun. Well, it's funny too, because you're a Scorpio rising, you have Pluto right on your ascendant, which is just so it's so funny because Pluto scares people because it's the planet of like death and rebirth transformation. But that's just like you hold a lot of power that people feel instantly. Sometimes Scorpio
Mm,
rising people too can feel like, oh, like you felt intense when I first met you, or like I didn't know if you liked me, or like that sort of like,
yeah.
because there's just a lot of depth. Like it's not small talk, like it's like
Hmm.
it's going right in there. But that's also adds to the back to like the stubbornness thing. That's a fixed sign. So when I was talking earlier about how Taurus, like the soul incarnation is Aquarius season, Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio, the fixed signs, aka the stubborn sign. So when you have multiple fixed energy as well, that can just be like really rooted, you like what you like, you hate what you hate,
Hmm.
and it can be just frustrating when people don't know themselves too. Like it's not even
Yeah,
just like, oh, it's a stubbornness. It's also like, don't you know if you have an opinion on broccoli? Like don't you like know how you feel about the things, which is funny because Sag and Libra, and I know they're young children. So like, and I always let people know, like, let kids evolve into their chart. No need to like, I don't think you
totally.
need to like put them under a microscope. Like, oh, that's so Sag, like, or whatever. Even though it is said we might act more like our moon sign until puberty, just because we're working
Hmm.
more from a subconscious, id sort of place versus like an ego zone. But Sag and Libra, where Capricorn and Taurus know what they like and like what they know. Sag and Libra are going to learn so much by just doing. Like, oh, do I like broccoli? It's like just try it. Like, and also maybe you changed from 3 years ago. Maybe that is also a new thing you didn't know. But fun fact, I'm putting on the transits of today. I
Yeah,
mean, you have the planet of change on your sun right now. So you're probably not the same Taurus you were from 2018 to
totally.
today. Tauruses have probably undergone the most like open-mindedness that they've ever experienced and probably will ever
Mm,
experience in their lifetime because this is not going to come back for another 84 years. So right now also my late degree Tauruses and Tauruses in general, like I'm an early degree Taurus or earlier degree Taurus. So I've already been going through it, but this has
mhm.
also just been such a invite for Tauruses to also like change their mind and to like go like
Yeah,
actually don't give a shit about that thing I used to really like dig my heels in on. Like I'm releasing, woohoo! Like yay for me. How does that feel to hear?
no, I love that. I do think that it's it is such an interesting time. It does feel like a time of a lot of change, but I definitely feel like I'm in a moment, a season. I think honestly, being a mother has really amplified this of just like
Mm-hmm.
really like taking stock of all the things that I used to care about and really considering what I still care about.
Mm-hmm.
And like it has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Another just cool thing while I have your chart up too, and we'll get into the not self types. Pluto, as I mentioned, is now in Aquarius. It changed signs since 2008. What happened in 2008? We can look back at patterns and things. However, we are in this new time. But your North Node, are you familiar with the North Node and South Node?
Yes, because we
Yes.
talked about it in astrology, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, in human design.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So the North Node, if we think about like karmic or evolutionary astrology being what we're being pointed towards, the South Node, not like we don't have to do South Node things, we just might be naturally good at it, rely on it. Like we know
Hmm.
XYZ. So, but what's really cool is like you're also having, your chart ruler, you're such a Plutonian scorpionic person, having Pluto cross your North Node of purpose in the third house place of communication, writing, education. The third and ninth house are both tied to education. But how I describe the third versus ninth, and not that we can't do both, but your gift is, this Aquarius reinvention or breakdowns into bite-sized pieces so it's more understandable, like a guide for people.
Hmm.
And that's like really laid out very clearly in the third house. So I always just like remind people too, if they're having major transits in the third house, it's like simplify, make it like, so like, not to say it's for dummies, but like with love, like it's just like, oh yes, like anyone can enter this and not needing a prerequisite or, a formal background or anything like that. Like it's inclusive, like making it
Hmm.
where it's understandable and I just always come back to bite size. And I think your book does like, I like just love how everything's laid out. Like I'm a Mercury and Gemini. I'm like, oh yes, I can easily like flip through and go like, of course I'm starting with my type
Of
first and then
course,
go
yeah.
through. And then I'm like, okay. And then I'll get to everyone I know, but then I can easily reference this. It's such a great tool. So just want to shout
Mm.
out how much I've been enjoying your book and how like connected it is to your natal chart too.
Isn't that so funny? And my human design chart is basically all about simplifying complex ideas in a way that just makes them make sense, And so like again, I feel like these systems are just the most supportive, And
Mm-hmm.
and also even to your point around kind of like knowing what I want, I have a lot of definition in human design in a way that
Oh.
means that like there's just a lot of like this is how I operate in this area, And so
Mm-hmm.
again, it's like different pieces can speak to really similar themes.
Yeah, we continue to contain multitudes, but then also the
Yeah.
crossover that comes with the astrology is really cute. Yeah, should we talk
Okay.
about the not self
Let's talk about the
thing?
not self because
Okay.
I think to your point, it's such a simple tool and yet such a useful tool that I love bringing it up. So basically, every type in human design will have very simple signals that reveal either when something is a little bit off track and needs kind of a course correction. This is called our not self. And it
Mm-hmm.
also will give us something called a signature, which reveals when we are in alignment. It basically is a sign
Mm-hmm.
we should keep moving in that direction. To start with projectors, because you shared it already, the not self for us is bitterness. Bitterness
Yeah.
tends to be rooted in a feeling of not feeling appreciated, not feeling recognized, not feeling seen for who we are, having so much to share, yet no one's asking us. To be in alignment is success. And of course, that can be financial success, but more than that, it's around just feeling deeply rooted and deeply appreciated for who we are and like really
Mm.
inspired to share and feeling really valued and compensated well. And it just feels like we get to like be ourselves in a way that feels sustainable and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
For generators and manifesting generators to need a shift or to be off track is frustration. That tends to be rooted in like
Yeah.
kind of a resentment around how they're using their energy. And to be on track is satisfaction. They end the day and they're like, I'm delightfully spent. I left it all in the field. Like I feel like I like used my precious energy so well.
Mm-hmm.
For manifestors to be on track, to be off track is anger, which is often rooted in a more kind of disempowered feeling, not feeling free to kind of do what they want, when they want, how they want. And to be on track is peace, freedom to do what
Wow.
they want, when they want, how they want. My 7-month-old is a manifestor, and like I feel like I can be around her all the time because there is this just sense of peace that I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
can relax into. I'm like, this is the coolest feeling as somebody that doesn't
Oh,
have that as my own signature. And then
yeah.
for reflectors to be off track is disappointment that
Mm-hmm.
often shows up as kind of trying to be a thing that they're not, being in the wrong space with the wrong people. And to be on track is a feeling of surprise, kind of just like marveling at how their life is unfolding, at kind of their many expressions. And I feel like that is just one of the coolest things to hear about.
I'm just already like placing everyone I know and like I'm just like, yep, I've seen generators like when they're not in there feeling themselves, like
Totally.
go into those routes. And yeah, I think like I think sometimes knowing the signals when things are off, similar like if you're going to the
Hmm.
doctor, like, it's like where'd that mole come from? Like you
Yeah,
just have to start keeping tabs on when things are not in that alignment. So then you can return back to like those good juicy feelings too. Oh my gosh,
totally.
love. No, I think that's a great, especially as things feel so like I always use the word like crunchy, where it's just like what, like, it's like puberty. It's like we're going through like a very different time.
Yeah,
So then how to then recognize when the things are off.
totally.
I would love to go over, let's do, okay, I know what to do. Let's go. So Jupiter, I would love to chat like each type because speaking of all the change, I want to just focus on Jupiter because Jupiter is where we have abundance. It's moving into Cancer, your natal Jupiter. So you'll be in your Jupiter return very soon. Congratulations. That starts June 9th and we'll be there for about a year-ish. So we're gonna have this switch from Jupiter and Gemini. It's very, no shade to them. It's just like a lot of connections and busyness and which is great for communications. But now Jupiter is moving into Cancer, which is a sign of intuition, finding home in yourself, how to just kind of like be with oneself and also yeah, like trusting your gut in a way too. So I'm curious, like maybe how each type might work with intuition or work with knowing, that they're on the right track. Maybe that comes back into the not self sort of things too. But I'm curious if you have any stray thoughts or takeaways on how we can come home to ourselves and believe in ourselves and trust ourselves and that we know what we're up to.
I like it. Okay. So I would say for generators and manifesting generators, what comes up is like so much of their journey is like really getting to know themselves in terms of like what actually feels like the most satisfying use of their energy. What
Mm-hmm.
is the thing that they feel like drawn to in a way that feels undeniable? And so like it feels like a really beautiful time. And it's always a beautiful time, but especially now to kind of really think about like what are the things that I feel like glad to have done? What are the things that on the other side of doing them, I'm like, God, that felt like a good use of my energy. Whether it's like cleaning your house or whether it's like
Right.
making music or whether it's like putting together a deck or doing an astrology reading, whatever the thing is, like I feel like it's a great time to be curious about like what are the things that you would feel glad to have done. And
Like
like
been on the list for some time now. Like let's just even if maybe this is a leap, maybe even if it's like make the shitty draft version, like make it
totally.
exist.
Make it exist. Like, what is the thing that you feel like is a really like, and productive is the wrong word, just like a really satisfying use of your energy? Like, I think
Right.
there's a lot of talk out there around like being lit up as a generator or manifesting generator. And that's true. You want to follow what lights you up. But more than that, you want to follow what satisfies you. What again you
Mm-hmm.
do, and you're like, God, that feels good to have done, you know? So, like, I would just, it feels like a really beautiful time to kind of get to know that. And
Yeah.
like, I think when I sit with generators and manifesting generators who are in jobs they don't enjoy, the answer is not always like quit my job the next day, but the answer might be like, how can I carve out an hour a week or an hour a day or whatever is feasible right now to be like, let me just do a thing that feels deeply satisfying and kind of take that as a first step and see where it takes me.
Oh, I love that. I don't know why I just got the download that some of these generators need to like clear their closet out too and just like have a more
Totally.
functional way
I think
to
that's
like
right.
be and work too.
Well,
Something
because
some of you need your closet cleaned. I don't know, it just came in.
I also think that like generators and manifesting generators are here to let life come to them and kind of see what naturally sparks them. So I think
Hmm.
cleaning out their closet, cleaning out their obligations, cleaning out their commitments is also
Making
a
the
way to
space
make
too.
the space for more to come in. That's exactly right. So then projectors, like I guess what I would say is the clearer you see your own gifts, the easier you make it for others to see them too.
Hmm.
And so it feels like it's a really good time to be like, what am I really good at? I think as projectors, we can be like, okay, yeah, like I got to keep working, I got to keep doing, but it's like, as a projector, you might be really good at making people feel seen and understood. That's honestly
Hmm.
kind of like a gift of projectors. Like you might really be good at offering a fresh perspective or making things more efficient or whatever the thing is. Like, I guess I would like get to know your own gifts in a really clear way because again, the more you recognize yourself, the easier it is for others to recognize you. So that kind of feels like a beautiful pathway towards abundance in all the ways.
Hmm. I'm like thinking because I know I'm a self-projected projector, and I'm always like, how do I like interview myself and my get like how it's like I love bouncing off friends, like that's just always my go-to too. But I'm thinking out loud too. I'm like, maybe it is a way to interview yourself in a sense, like maybe writing a before and after, like, oh, if you have goals for May, checking back in on that like a literal list or something. I don't know. There's feels like not to be like progress and checking, but there is something of an accountability that might
Hmm.
be hard to access, but could be cute to try while Jupiter is in Cancer is on our side. And are
Totally.
coming back more to ourselves because the thing is, Jupiter and Cancer, while they're so like tapped in, they can give a lot away. So I think too, the
Yeah.
reminder of not to give too much to, the consent, right? Like if people are asking for the advice or the reflection or what have you.
Yes, exactly. And like I think that's a big reminder for us as projectors too of like conserving our energy by sharing our guidance where it's wanted.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
as tempted as we might be to share it everywhere because we see it all, really, yeah, getting to know when the audience is receptive and when they're ready to hear it.
I've learned in life to be like, maybe it's a Taurus thing to be like, when a friend's, I'm like, do you want advice on this? And then being like, I just want to talk. I'm like, okay, cool. Or if they say yes, I want advice. I'm like, do you want soft or firm? Like, just like a masseuse, like what level of like truth would you like? And some people are like medium, or like what have you. So
Smart.
yeah, also knowing what to give and in what levels once the give is approved.
Totally. So the manifestors, I would say, so much of being a manifestor is waiting to see what urges arise and bubble up within you and being courageous enough to follow them. So it feels very connected to intuition around like giving yourself space to hear those things. Like I feel like
Hmm.
manifestors, they kind of have this bursty energy where they make things happen, followed by a period of rest. And that rest is important for so many reasons. But one is that it's where often new inspirations and ideas arise. So I would think about like how can you kind of carve out space to be uninterrupted in your own flow, doing your own thing,
Ooh,
and trust that like that's where you get the next hit of what to create next. And so
I
if
love
you're kind of
that.
in this overzealous pushing really hard mode, then you also in some ways make yourself unavailable for new ideas to land.
Oh, I feel like they need like a cabin in the woods weekend or something to
Totally.
just like nothing but whatever it is they want to tap into. So that's your sign, y'all, to if you're this type, or if that appealed, even if it's not your type, if you're like, I would love that,
Totally.
then go for it.
We probably all need that. Okay.
Yes.
So, and then for reflectors, hmm. I guess two ideas come up. One is that like the magic of reflectors is that their truth settles over time. It's not a spontaneous in the moment lightning bolt. It's a clarity that kind of like comes through conversation and time and space. And so I think it's a really beautiful time as always to be patient and not rush the clarity because it comes
Yeah.
with time and rushing into things often just is like then you'll have to back out of them. So really being like, let me
Yep.
take my time. I think the other piece is that reflectors like opportunities and abundance arise when they're in the right space,
Hmm.
because they amplify the energy that they're around. So I think really considering like what energy do you want to amplify? Like,
Hmm.
and really being more proactive and intentional about being in those spaces because that's going to pull out versions of you that are probably really exciting to get to know.
Sounds like since they are such like ethereal beings in many ways, and Jupiter and Cancer is amplifying that, it's like they also have like a lot more power than maybe they give themselves credit
Totally.
for as well. And I was also just getting this download of like clicking avoid highways, like taking the longer route, like if
Yeah,
inspo in the car or like
I
or
love
take
that.
or walking, taking the longer way if you have the time, especially as we're in this gorgeous summer season that's coming. Yeah, those are great. Oh my God. Did we get everybody? That was everyone.
I think we got
Okay,
everybody.
great. Fabulous.
Yeah.
Um, to close out, shout out the book. Like I would love to hear just your, any last thoughts, any stray things, and I'll put links to everything. So
Cool.
everyone please follow, get the book. Sound off in the comments. I'd love to hear everyone's types and how you resonate and connect to yours. And yeah, Erin, thank you so much.
Oh my God, so my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for also giving me a little astrology reading. So fun.
Oh,
I'm
of
usually on the
course. We'll
I'm
have
not usually
to
on this side.
we'll keep the combo going because
I know,
we'll
I'm
have
like, tell
to
me everything.
yeah, we'll
Um,
dive deeper together.
I think that, the book is really a focus on how human design can be practically used in your life. It's meant to be a guide that, you can keep returning to. You feel stuck at work, you feel stuck in a relationship, and you're able to kind of open it up and be like, oh, this is why, this is what I can do. So it's meant to be a resource that you don't just read once, but that you read many times. And it's meant to be a resource that you can use to better understand the people close to you. So if you're
Mhm.
interested in how to actually use human design in a really practical way, it is written for you and it's full of so many stories and case studies and anecdotes to really make the system make sense. And I also offer personalized guides to your unique design, and we have a discount code Stevie for that, and that is at humandesignblueprint.com, and that discount code will also apply to our course, which Ophi is taking right now.
Oh, great. Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'll have to see her over there.
yeah,
You heard that. This is the ultimate Aquarius North Node in the third house guide. It really is like I have like multiple pages bookmarked and folded to like
really.
this. Yes, get yours. Thank you so much for the great conversation. We'll have to have you back and
Thank you.
we'll see you all next time. Bye,
Okay.
guys.